Alright guys, so I've got a pretty unique one here. This is a question about morality versus profitability. Now, this customer has already booked one dumpster from me. They booked a 2-week rental just over 2 weeks ago. Called me up the day of pickup. I hadn't picked it up. It was like 10, 11 a.m. and he was just calling to see what I was doing, if I was actually picking up that day. I said, yeah, I'll be by in just a minute. You're the next up on the list. I'm just dumping the one I got now, dropping it off. I'll come pick it up. So he goes, okay, it's about 3/4 full. When you get here, let's talk. I want to see if I'm going to either extend this one or maybe get another one. I said, absolutely not a problem. I gave him a brief explanation of what my process is. So the way I do things, I max out at a 2-week rental. I'll allow you to stretch any rental up to 14 days. And then on day number 15, you have 2 options. Well, I guess 3 options. Either I pick it up and then we're done, or I swap it out and your rental restarts. You get a fresh empty bin, or I'll let you keep the one you have. The rental restarts, so you would do a whole nother rental booking, and I take $50 off the price of the second rental. Basically, I don't touch it. You just keep the same rental, and if, let's say, it went on for another exactly 2 weeks, it would be the exact same price minus $50. I explained that briefly over the phone. He's a little bit older, very Greek, very, very Greek. The most Greek name I've ever heard in my life, to be honest. So, not a great ability to communicate over the phone. Like, he speaks English, but he, you know, it's not his strongest suit over the phone. Went to the house afterwards. I explained it to him in person. Still had to collect for the overages on the first dumpster. So I said, okay, this is what I'll do. Because he decided we were gonna reset. So I picked up the dumpster, I dumped it, and I said I'll be back in the morning with another. We decided instead of doing a 20-yarder, I'll do a 15-yarder. I said I can work with you a little bit better on the 15-yarders. I have more of them, and the 20s have been rented out like crazy. So if he'll take a 15-yarder, I'll save him a couple extra bucks. So he said, that's fine. The following morning, I come back with an empty 15-yard dumpster. I collect the overage for the first dumpster. So the first dumpster was 2.5 tons. Second dumpster, I basically worked out to be $100 less than the 20-yarder would have been for the same 2-week price. He wasn't sure if they need it for a week, 2 weeks, not real sure what the deal is. So ultimately, I gave him a $100 discount from what the 20-yarder was for the 2-week price. Normally it would have been about $50 less, but I took another $50 off just to kind of ease him a little bit. So he's happy. Actually wrote me a check, which is not my normal process, but he's a little old school, so I'm fine with it. He had wrote me a check for the first one. That one was fine. So wrote me a check for the overage on the first one and the 2-week price of the second one. Now at this point, we've delivered 2 dumpsters. I go home. It's the following day. I get a phone call. He goes, hey Joe, was talking to my son. He said there's really not that much to get rid of at this point, and he's gonna just do dump runs himself, and we don't really need the dumpster. So I've done the work. I've taken the liability and the risk. I've dropped off I've completed everything on my end to drop off a dumpster. At this point, it's only been 1 day. The dumpster is empty, and he's requesting that I pick it up. He didn't give me any specific requests for what he wants refunded, but I could tell you that the issue was over money. I said, let me talk to you tomorrow and let me decide what I'm gonna do, and we'll go from there. What would you guys do in that situation? Do you think it would be wise to refund him everything? Do you refund him a portion? Do you not refund anything at all and just, it is what it is? As far as I'm concerned, there's a contract signed. I've been fully funded. There's really no process that he could even go through to get that money back outside of my good graces. What would be the appropriate way to handle that situation? How do you make yourself look good and not get taken advantage of? How do you handle that to where everyone walks away the most amount of happy? It's a tough one. All right. Hopefully you guys have had some time to think about it. I just picked up that dumpster. It is now sitting on the trailer. Now I did work this out pretty well because I had a booking 5 minutes up the street from this house. I asked him 3 days ago when he called me about the returning of the dumpster, essentially. I asked him, can I let it sit there until Saturday morning? I've got another booking up the street. Just make my life a little easier. So he was totally fine with that. So it sat there empty from Thursday to Saturday. I got another booking a night or two ago. So what I did was loaded up a 15-yarder for the one down the street from him, dropped that, picked this one up, and now I'm bringing this one to another person. But had I knocked out that second order, I'd have just drove an empty trailer out, grabbed this one, moved it over. So either way, logistically, made it easier on me having one out here. I get to do both drop-offs without having to return to the yard or, you know, do any kind of dumping, anything like that. So what did we decide to do? That's the ultimate question. So what I ended up doing was taking his 2-week rental, which was $469 plus the dump fees. Obviously there's no dump fees because it's empty. I took that $469 and I took my 1-day rental price out of it, which is $239, and then that 1-day rental ended up being $239 in my pocket, and I refunded him $230. Ultimately, it was kind of like a double dry run fee because I had to go out there and drop it, go back out there, pick it up, but I made a little bit of extra. So what would have been a 2-week rental plus the dump fees ended up being a 1-day rental with no dump fees. So not as much profit as I would have possibly made, but the big kicker to that is A, I want to be fair to my customers. I'm not saying it would be unfair to just say no refunds because that's definitely a possibility. But if someone calls you on day 1 of their rental and says, hey, I don't need this at all, and you've already charged them for 2 weeks, that gets into a little bit of, you know, I wouldn't say you have to feel bad, but I think you should probably feel a little bad for collecting all that extra time on a customer that doesn't need all that extra time. Just my opinion. Not saying that that is how you should run your business. That's just how I run my business. I want to treat people fairly, but I also want to make sure that I'm not getting abused. The alternative to that, a percentage of business owners that have great sympathy and always want to treat their customers the absolute best possible way, might have either refunded all of it or done, you know, like a bare cost, you know, here's basically everything back and I kept $20 for fuel or just a dry run fee or something along those lines. Which there's nothing wrong with doing that, but ultimately if you're always in favor of the customer, you're going to go out of business. You do have to look out for yourself. You have to make sure your business is profitable because at the end of the day, I look at this business as my 4th child, right? I've got my 3 boys in my business and all 4 of them need my attention, not necessarily in the same way, but basically in the same way. They will all not survive if I am not there to make sure that everything is functioning as it should be. I did make it a point to explain to him. I broke it down. I said, this is what you cut your check for. This is how much was overage on the first one. And this is what I'm willing to do for you on this. I wasn't very certain of how he was going to handle it. A part of me always prepares for conflict, you know, so the last few days I've kind of had this pit in my stomach where it's like, is he going to be upset? Is his son going to be upset? Am I going to have to talk my way through this for 15 minutes? Are they going to be super grateful and not expect anything and then, you know, just be happy to get any amount of money back? You never know how these conversations go. I was very grateful that it went like it did. I explained everything to him. He got a big smile on his face. He said, thank you very much, Joe. Anything you could do for me, I really appreciate. I'm so sorry for putting you in this position. I'm going to call you again if I ever need anything in the future, you know, the whole 9 yards. He was very grateful. He was super relaxed about it. And ultimately, not only did it go well, it went great. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome given the circumstances. I guess I could have kept the whole check, would have been. If I kept the whole check and he was really grateful, then it would have been the best possible outcome. But no, at the end of the day, I made more than enough to be happy with what I did. I got paid $239 to drive 20 minutes away twice. So could be a whole lot worse. Now, the other side of that is I now have my empty dumpster that I get to go drop off at someone else's house and make some money there. So you just keep the ball rolling, keep the wheel turning, and try to make as many people happy along the way, and try to get all the reviews that you can. Try to, always do in your heart what you feel is best, and hopefully that works out for everyone in the end. I feel good about how this all went down. I feel like he feels good about how this all went down, and now instead of giving them the sorry, my policy is no refunds, look at the contract you signed, instead of giving that and meeting resistance over a few $100s, now I get to have actually not even a few hundred, over $230 would have been the total difference in my life. So really at the end of the day, it's not worth tarnishing your reputation. It's not worth having someone out there that, looks at you poorly or talks down on you if someone were to recommend or be looking for a recommendation on the type of service you do. So I am ultimately happy with that, and we're just going to keep it moving now.